Hey guys, it's V with The Revolution Will Be Planned, and today is Sunday. It's March 1st, and in between my meal prep and my schoolwork and starting to write a paper, I just wanted to sit down and talk about how I do my budget. A lot of people ask me this in real life, so I'm hoping that this video can be helpful for all of my friends who are interested in seeing how I manage my personal finances. Okay, so to start off, I've laid out 5 steps to my budget. So step number 1 is I set an annual budget. The annual budget I use uses a system called sinking funds. Sinking funds are different accounts that you set aside where you put money in little by little to save for major expenses. So for example, a sinking fund that I have is for my car insurance. I pay my car insurance every 6 months because you do get a discount, and so I use a sinking fund to save little by little each paycheck in order to pay that off on time instead of paying a huge amount every 6 months. I set my annual budget using a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets, and you just got to figure out a system that works best for you. My spreadsheets may not be as intuitive for anyone else other than me, but they work for me. Step 2 is to review your spending from last month and review last month's budget. So if you aren't already in the habit of budgeting monthly, then you should track your purchases for at least 1 month. I think some people suggest 3 months to get a sense of how much you're spending in different categories. And then you use your spending from last month to kind of set your next month's budget. So for me, because I've been budgeting for a while now, for a few years, I kind of already have a sense of how much I spend in each month. And so for the next month, when I budget every month, I kind of look back on what I did last month and make these minor adjustments, and also take into consideration different things that may come up in that month. For example, maybe you know you're going to have to spend money on gifts, or you know that something is coming up where you're going to have to spend a little bit more on food, or you know you're going to eat out a lot more. That's when I make the minor adjustments, and that is step 3. So step 4 is during the month, I track every single transaction that I make. I used to do this using an app called Mint, but it wasn't really working for me because it wasn't syncing up to all of my accounts the way that I wanted. So I deleted my Mint account, and then I actually just started to track every purchase by hand in my bullet journal, which is what I'm going to be showing you today, how I set up my bullet journal to track these expenses. And then step 5 is at the end of the month, repeat steps 2 to 4. So at the end of the month, review all your purchases, make adjustments, make the next month's budget, and then keep continuing and keep going. I found that over time my process has kind of changed, but that these 5 steps are generally what I do. The way that I track it might change, the amounts in each category might change, how much I'm saving might change, but generally these 5 steps are how I do my budget. So now I'm going to flip the phone around. I do film on my phone, and I'm going to film my setup for how I track my finances in my bullet journal. Okay, so to start off, what I do on step 2 is to review my last month's budget. What I have right here is my February budget. I did make a couple purchases, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through all of my credit card statements and bank statements and make sure that I have every purchase written down on here. And then I'm going to finish filling out all of my actuals. You can see here, this is the system that I use now. This is how I've been writing down every single purchase with the budget here and then all the transactions here. So I'm going to turn off the camera and then just do this really quickly, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so at this point I've gone through and I have written down and made sure that all of my transactions for the month are in my expense tracker. And then I've also added up all the categories and I've listed them into the actual. So I am actually missing 3 utilities because my roommates have not charged me for those on Venmo yet, so I don't know how much that will be, other than Verizon, which is usually actually the same price every month. And I've also highlighted some things that I wanted to take note of. So these are my sinking funds, which are set up to automatically save every month, but I forgot to set up this one, so it was 0 for this month, which is fine. It's just for my beauty category, so I'm not super worried about that. And then I've also highlighted all of these. I went over budget this month. One of my goals for February was to go under in want categories. However, that did not actually happen. I ate out a lot. I bought a lot of things for Moody and just spent a little bit extra to, have some fun during the month. So that's why I'm a little bit over. So I just highlighted those to just take note for making my March budget. After I did that, I went in and I tallied everything up in red into my needs, savings, wants categories, and then this down here is my net income. The reason why I do not do a zero-based budget is because I get paid every other week, and some months have 5 paychecks. So that kind of throws things off whenever I have that extra paycheck in the month. So what this does is this little bit of extra net income that's still left in my checking account at the end of the month, once those 7 paychecks go past, it saves enough for another month's worth of expenses. So that's why there is a positive amount in my budget at the end of the month. Another thing I did was add up my sinking fund purchases. So here is where I track my sinking funds. Again, these are categories of expenses that you don't spend every month, but maybe every once in a while you do have a bigger purchase. I spent a lot on pets this month because Moody had to go to the vet a couple times and get some tests done. So that was actually a really big expense, and I actually don't have enough money saved to pay that all off. So I'm gonna have to dip into my emergency fund just to pay those off. So what I do is I track everything here separately in this section. This is something new I've started doing in the past couple of months because these purchases don't go into my usual monthly budget. You see they're not budgeted here. I don't always know that they're gonna come up, but these are here in my sinking funds, and I do on my spreadsheets have a separate section for some of the bigger bills that I have, just such as car insurance and things like that, and I know when those are typically coming up and if I have enough money set aside for those. What I do with this is that I take these amounts, I transfer them from my sinking funds to pay off my credit cards on these purchases, using the cash that is in my savings accounts and not the cash that is in my checking account, because my checking account is for my day-to-day expenses. So this is my February budget, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to transfer them onto a annual budget tracker. So if you watch my 2020 setup, you watch me film how I set this up. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these amounts and I'm going to just transfer them here into February. And then on this one, I decided just to round to the nearest dollar because I didn't think it was that important to capture every single cent. Something that's different here is that these are actually subcategories, so I just lumped everything together. Food, restaurants, and fast food and coffee shops as just food here, instead of having every single category. So I do have to do a little bit of addition. I actually can't fill in my total spent or net income actually because I don't have my utility bills yet, so I'll just do those later. But in case you were wondering why these numbers aren't matching up, this budget is actually set for extra paycheck. So on average, if I were to split that extra paycheck up per month, this is actually what my monthly income would be. And so I kind of base it off of that for my sinking fund savings, which are taken out of my paycheck. So that's why these numbers are bigger than these numbers here. Also, I only started saving my sinking funds during the second half of the month, so I only saved half of the amount, or I guess it would be 2/7 of the amount. But these monthly spending amounts should be about equal to what is set in a month. Sorry if that's really confusing to understand, but I could maybe do another video that talks about it more in depth. So I can see here that I spent, even though I went over my budget in this budget, actually for on average during the year, I did spend less than I had set, so that's good. Transportation is really low. Self-care is low. I mean, honestly, it's going to be the same amount every month because I only do the same things every month. And pharmacy maybe should go up a little bit, so I can just adjust. So this column right here is just kind of like the base budget, or just the guidelines that I can I have a little bit of wiggle room within here as long as it all adds up to this $1,700, which is what I try to spend every month. So that is my February values into my annual finance tracker. And then now I'm going to do my March setup. Okay, so I'm actually really excited to be doing this new layout. Sometimes if you're feeling off track with your budgeting, sometimes you just got to change up the way that you do your tracking to keep it exciting and to keep you engaged in the process. That was one of the reasons why I'm doing this new setup. So I have already sketched out what I wanted it to look like so this video can be quicker. But essentially what's going to happen is, let me flip back. Instead of having my whole budget here and then tracking all the expenses here, what I'm going to do is each box is going to have the budget right here on the top. I don't know if you can see that, but you'll see it once I draw it out. And then all the transactions are going to be below, so I actually don't have to kind of go back and forth to add up the number, look over at what the budget is supposed to be. It's going to be all there in one space, and I can just really easily interpret it from there. Okay, so right now I'm going to set up my spread. This housing one is a little bit interesting since I only make one transaction for each of these, and rent is obviously going to be the same, which I actually already paid for this month. But these other things may fluctuate. But for the other, and Moody's feet are in the way. Oh my God. The other categories, what's going to happen is the category is going to go on the top. So this one's transportation. And then the different subcategories where I will be making transactions and purchases are going to go under. And then I'm going to go over and then kind of highlight this so that you know it's a header. Okay, so this next section is my savings, which are basically my sinking funds. I guess I call them different things, but my sinking funds are savings accounts. And they are set up to deposit the same amount every time I have a paycheck. So the sinking fund categories that I have are grad school. So I do set aside money each month to pay my tuition bills, which are twice per semester. I have home, which is, it includes a water bill that is quarterly, and it also includes things I have to purchase for my home, such as furniture or housewares or things like that. Car is for car insurance, mostly like I mentioned, but also can include things like repairs. Pet is for Moody's, mostly just medical bills, but sometimes I like to splurge and buy him new toys. Medical is for co-pays for my appointments, anything that comes up where I have to purchase any prescriptions, lab tests, and that type of thing. Beauty is for my hair care, skincare, makeup, if I want to go to the salon or anything, that's what that category is for. And then I have a category for excursions. I used to call it my travel funds, but it is actually just excursions, meaning if I ever want to go to a concert or any type of activity like that, that money is going to come out of my excursions budget. And then lastly, I have shopping, which is for any other type of shopping. I am saving money to buy new clothes for this year, and I saved enough money using my shopping sinking fund to buy a new yoga mat, which I'm very excited to make that purchase this month. The next category is my savings, which I save in investment accounts. So I do this through Wealth Simple, which I learn about on the Financial Diet YouTube channel, one of my favorite channels. Actually, pretty much the only channel about personal finance that I watch on YouTube. But I also have a little bit going into saving for grad school using an investment account because there is a higher return. I'm going to leave it in there until the very last minute so I can take it out and have the highest amount of returns on it as possible. And then a new account I'm going to start this month actually is going to be for a house. So I'm not going to purchase a house in the very near future, but it is something that I'm thinking about doing, so I thought I could just start setting aside a little bit of money now so that maybe in 10 years I can buy a house when I'm making more than I'm making right now. So these are all of my savings categories, and so you see that if you look here, I actually save a lot of money, but this money is going to be used throughout the year. I just don't spend it on my everyday expenses. Okay, and here is this month's budget spread. Yeah, is that weird, me turning it like that? This is my budget for March. I do need to go in and put in some numbers here. but it's pretty much all set, and there you have it. That is how I do my budget in my bullet journal and how I budget in general. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Let me know if you'd like to learn more about how I budget. I could definitely go in depth for a number of these topics. This is just how I do it. It's in no way the perfect way. You know, I even mess up sometimes using this system, so I'm still trying to figure out what really works best for me. But this is the system that I have right now. If you are interested in seeing more things about bullet journals, please check out my other videos. I'm hoping that in the next few months I can start making videos around my experience in grad school, so that is just taking a little bit of time to put together, but I hope to have those for you. So if you want to stay tuned, please subscribe to my channel and also give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful for you. Bye!